Hey there everyone, I'm Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Ben 10 Retrospectives, and today we're going to be talking about episode 41 of the original Ben 10 series, Divided We Stand. And in this episode, the Tennysons are at the beach. While there, Gwen and Max are just kind of relaxing, doing their own thing. Gwen's reading from the spell book she got from Charmcaster, Max seems to be working on something, and Ben's being Ben as he goes alien, specifically Ripjaws, which I'm only mentioning now because this is the first time we've seen Ripjaws in a whole season. And he's just going nuts, doing whatever he wants, and of course, Gwen and Max start chewing him out. But he pretty much just blows them off, saying that their way of having fun is boring. And pretty much, he's just being an annoyance. He's just being an annoyance at the beach, and just kind of getting in people's ways. Until, but while he's doing his thing, he's suddenly attacked by a giant mutant seagull, which I will give you 3 guesses. None of them count. I'm just gonna spoil it anyway. It's Dr. Animo's seagull. It's because the beginning of the episode is him breaking out of prison. It turns out that he had one of his pets, a seagull, had been giving him little bits and pieces of technology over the course of for a while, and he's been using them to build a new transmodulator. And he mutated the seagull and got out. So now this seagull is attacking Ben. So Ben decides he's going to go alien and fight it. But then when he transforms, he, of course, gets a new guy almost 2 episodes after he just got a new guy. Which, yeah, this is kind of how it got old. But thankfully, this is going to be the last new guy for a while, as the next few are relegated to the movies. But anyway. So we get the introduction of, personally, one of my favorite aliens in the series, Ditto. He's voiced by Rob Paulsen, so that's an immediate plus. And at first, Ben doesn't really seem to have any special powers, as the bird seems to be easily whooping his butt. But then when the bird is pulling on Ben and he's holding onto a rock, suddenly it stretches him so far that he splits into 2. It turns out that Ditto has the power to clone himself. The Dittos start fighting off the giant bird, the bird has one Ditto's foot in its beak, and as it's doing this, the other Ditto gets on its back and rips off some feathers. It causes it to drop the other Ditto, and then the bird's about to go after the first one, but then the other Ditto grabs 2 more feathers, and so they run, and so it's chasing them, and they manage to get it tangled up in a volleyball net. But it manages to escape, and so the Tennysons pretty much figure out right away, or at least Max does, that Animo is obviously the cause, because who else has giant mutant birds? So, and of course, until he attacks again, Ben just starts abusing the heck out of Ditto, as once he's able to transform into him again, he just starts going nuts, being more annoying than usual, because now he can be in more than one place, and then he and the Dittos get into a basketball game, but they start bickering. They start bickering. They start bickering over but after one of them throws a ball at the other because they start arguing, and so they start bickering over who gets it. So one goes off while the other 3 are fighting, and when he gets the ball, out comes Animo wearing a weird scuba suit and riding on the tentacles of a giant squid monster. At which point he takes the Ditto, and then when Max and Gwen come down to see what they're doing, they figure out they see Animo taking the 4th Ditto away, and of course just as they do that, the Omnitrix symbol, which is on Ditto's forehead, it flashes for all 3 of the other Dittos, but then rather than transforming them all back into Ben, they all just suddenly stop, and the Tennysons realize that the Omnitrix, and in order for Ben to become Ben again, all the Dittos need to be together. So they make it their quest to go and find Animo wherever he is. While in the meantime, Animo brings the 4th Ditto back to his new lab, which is on a crashed oil rig. And while he's there, he's able to extract a little bit of Ben's DNA, and it turns out that all he needs is one strand of Ben's alien DNA, and he can apparently unlock the code for all of Ben's other aliens, which is a little iffy, but I suppose you can make the excuse that since they're all part of the Omnitrix, of course, they're all connected. They're all connected little by a little bit here and there. So pretty much all the Tennyson's binding make the. So pretty much that's pretty much where everything comes together. Max and so pretty much that's where everything kind of comes together in this case. The Tennysons have to find the fourth Ditto, and Tennysons have to find the fourth Ditto. In the meantime, Dr. Animo is using the Ditto DNA to create. He finally actually manages to use the Ditto DNA to create mutant versions of Ben's aliens, specifically Stinkfly. And because it's from Ditto, it also has another added bonus. The alien they can duplicate. So after they get after the Tennysons get the fourth Ditto back, they realize they have to sorry, I'm stuttering. The Tennysons realize they have to stop Animo from using his Stinkfly army because again they duplicate to hurt people, and again it shows a nice little bit of Animo acting crazy as he's just ranting and raving about how he'll use this to take over the world and all that stuff. He's still fun to watch, and it turns out and this is kind of where a bit nice little and so the Tennyson and that's pretty much what the final conflict of the episode is, which and. I might as well just say it now. They managed to take the Stinkflies out because Ditto actually does have weakness. Whatever happens to one copy of Ditto affects them all. So like when the first two Dittos were fighting the giant seagull and it was pinching down on one of their legs, they both feel the pain, or when one of them stubs their toe, they all feel it. Which that actually happens twice in this episode. Ben slams his foot into a rock and it made me cringe. Like, really cringe, because I can feel that pain. I banged my foot into hard stuff before. But, yeah, that's pretty much the whole of the episode there. Got back to spoiling episodes rotten again, so before I kind of get into it, I'm going to talk about I first only talk about Ditto because he's a new alien, gotta talk about him. Ditto, as I just stated in the beginning of this vlog, is one of my favorite Ben 10 aliens. Again, it probably could also be that he's voiced by Rob Paulsen, which is nice, but I like the duplication thing. It's not really that much, especially since that's really his only power, because they show him in fights. And because they show him in fights, that's really all he has going for him, but admittedly, that's kind of what makes it, but admittedly, that can also work to its advantage. I mentioned how one of Ben's strengths in throughout the series is that he's creative, and that if he's in a situation where he can't go alien, he has to, or even if he goes the wrong alien, he improvises and manages to use what he has available to turn the tide of battle towards what he wants. And as such, in this episode, and so having all these Ditto copies together actually kind of helps exemplify that strength of Ben. As in the beginning of the episode, both Dittos start. One acts as distraction, one acts as distraction while the other does something else, and both Dittos manage to, and because there's more than one, it allows them to do more creative things. And it's even kind of nice, and it's kind of a nice little bit of strength of numbers thing, because it's even kind of nice just to see, because it's just kind of cool seeing these people together, and again. Admittedly, I still feel like the duplication thing can still be a weakness. Or by that I mean that's a weakness. That's his only power. Which, admittedly, Ditto does get trumped by another alien we'll be seeing in the next series. But he's still one of my favorite aliens, and it's still nice to see. And even the weakness. And again, as I mentioned before, it's still kind of nice to see that they do learn from the weakness of Ditto to take down Animo. So others. Well, I think other strengths of the episode are, again, Dr. Animo, who is still one of the best villains of this show, because he's just crazy. He's just fun to watch. He's full of himself. He's just superior. It's just fun watching him. And it's just kind of, it's nice because he appears in every season in some way, shape, or form. And it's really nice to see him in this one. Especially since the last time the Tennyson saw this version of Animo was in Dr. Animo and the Mutant Ray. And technically the last time they faced him was in Ben 10,000, but again, that's more continuity. I have to stick to this episode, I'm going off track. pretty much, I think it's just fun watching him, and it's still fun, and it's still cool to see when his mutations, like the giant mutant seagull, and of course the giant octopus. It's just cool. Like, and this thing is huge. Like when the Tennysons are on the oil rig, when they get the fourth Ditto free and they all merge back to become Ben again. As the Tennysons are on the rig, and it's so huge that its tentacles come up around the rig, or actually all around the rig. That is awesome. They do manage to beat it with upgrade using an electrical shock, which actually I think they say vaporizes it or at least hurts it in some way. I don't know, but it's still a nice it's still cool. And another major strength is just kind of major strength is just kind of it's just kind of seeing more of Gwen and Max doing their thing, because one of the things, because this is kind of something that the series has neglected, that Max and Gwen has actually throughout the series been growing as well, actually becoming more than just the help, so to speak. Like I mentioned, like we see Max do some of his plumber stuff. We see Max taking advantage of his plumber history to get them technology, and to get technology, get access to things, provide valuable knowledge, and that's in this episode, and that's what he's doing in this episode. The thing he's tinkering with is a jetpack, which he ultimately uses the heck out of it in the third act. And another thing that I like is seeing Gwen studying her spell book, which is something that I forgot to talk about, forgot to emphasize with the Visitor, because in the Visitor, Gwen was using the spell book to do other things. But in this episode she's just constantly studying it until she's actually able to use a tornado spell to hold objects aloft, to create shields, and even use the whirlwinds of use the tornado whirlwinds to fly with a glider. It is really nice, and it helped, and I do like that it shows growth for both. It shows growth for them, at least for Gwen. Max is just kind of nice to see him doing his plumber thing in an episode just for recreational purposes. So honestly, I think the kind of problem is that the episode occasionally jumps around, but it's a nitpick and you barely notice it, because I think because it's more noticeable after Animo catches the fourth Ditto, as when the next time you see the Tennysons, they're on a boat going after him, which they never show them getting. It's actually featured in a deleted scene, them renting it. But otherwise, that's just kind of a minor complaint, and I think it only happens like once, maybe twice. No, just once. But otherwise, this is a fun episode. It doesn't really rank up as in the top 5 of my favorite episodes list, but just with the introduction of Ditto and having Dr. Animo as the bad guy, it's still a fun episode for what it is, and it's enjoyable. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and tune in next week. We look at what I did consider one of my favorite episodes. I still might, but it brings back a villain we also haven't seen for a season or two. So yeah. Again, thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I will see you next week. Take care.